Good morning. Pursuant to House Rule 10.01, I'm calling this remote hearing of the House Preventing Homelessness Division to order. The first order of business is taking the roll. Mr. Clerk.
Chair Gomez.
Present.
Gomez present. Keeler.
Keeler present.
Keeler present. New Brindley.
Present.
New Brindley present. Davids.
Davids present.
Davids present. Heinrich.
Heinrich present.
Heinrich present. Hollins. Hornstein.
Hornstein present.
Hornstein present. Howard.
Present.
Howard present. Koegel.
Present.
Koegel present. Petersburg.
Present.
Petersburg present. Ryer.
Ryer present.
Ryer present. And we do have a quorum.
Thank you so much, Mr. Clerk. Next is approval of the minutes. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes for March 3rd, 2021?
Madam Chair, so moved.
Representative Ryer moves approval of the minutes for March 3rd, 2021. Is there any discussion on that motion? Hearing none, if we could unmute ourselves for a moment to take a voice vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion prevails and the minutes for March 3rd, 2021 are adopted. So today we're going to hear House File 1382, which is a Representative Koegel bill that has to do with long-term homelessness support services. Before I'm going to out us, Representative Hornstein. Frank and I had this discussion, I think 2 weeks ago, where he reached out and he's like, so this is sort of embarrassing, but I don't actually know 100% what all they mean when they talk about supportive services for housing. And I was like, oh my God, me neither. And so I figured if Chair Hornstein and I, between us, maybe aren't exactly sure what all these things are, then maybe we're not the only ones with questions. And so what we decided to do, really thankful to hear this bill this morning, but we also have Heidi Hamilton from the Department of Human Services to kind of go over some of the sort of the funding and what it's used for, and the kind of programs that it supports. And then we're really, really thrilled to have a presentation on Chum Duluth and the Steve O'Neill apartment program to talk more about how the funding for supportive services plays out on the ground, and the types of support that this funding is able to kind of bring to bear on for folks who have experienced homelessness and are transitioning into permanent housing. So that's kind of going to be the bulk of the meeting. The other thing is, last week when we heard the Housing First for Kids tax aid bill, there were some testifiers that we didn't get to. I think I also just want to sing the praises of Vice Chair Keeler for somehow miraculously helping us to end our committee at noon. It was amazing, but it unfortunately meant that we couldn't hear from everybody who wanted to speak about that bill. So first we're going to go to those public testifiers so that we can hear from them about the bill. First, we're going to hear from Janisha Anderson. If you're on the call, I don't know if I see you, Janisha. Or maybe we'll go to Alexis Kramer. Ms. Kramer, I see that you're on the call, and then if Ms. Anderson shows up, then we'll have her testimony as well. But welcome to the committee, Ms. Kramer, please. Oh, just a moment, Ms. Kramer. Yeah, Representative New Brindley.
I'm sorry. Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to make sure, I'm a little confused about what's happening. Are these testifiers to the bill to talk about what those long-term supports are? Or
no,
are
I'm
these
sorry.
just more generally?
Yeah, so these testifiers both signed up to speak about the Housing First for Kids.
I apologize,
aid.
Madam
Oh,
Chair.
yeah, no problem.
I apologize. Thank you.
We're kind of trying to finish that, and then we'll move into.
I apologize. Thank you.
No worries. So Ms. Kramer, welcome to the committee. Please introduce yourself for the record and share your testimony with us. Good morning.
Good morning, Madam Chair and committee. My name is Alexis Kramer, spelled Kramer.
Ms. Kramer, you just went on mute. We could hear you for a sec. I think we
Sorry,
got
did
you
you
now.
guys get most of that? Sorry. I think Janelle just tried calling me. Um, okay, that totally threw me off. I don't know which part you guys heard, but I'm Alexis Kramer. I'm with an organization called Freedom from the Streets and No More Streets. I help advocate for the homeless community, and I also help families that are dealing with child protection services. My testimony was actually going to be about Representative Gomez's bill that for last week. But seeing that it passed, I'm grateful that it passed. But one thing that I wanted to touch on was, and I'll keep it short. So as you know, I've shared a month ago that I am dealing with child protection. I have 2 children of my own that are in the foster care system. Mostly due because I grew up in the foster care system. And I'm being accused of abusing and neglecting my children because I grew up with abuse and neglect. I was also too trusting with other people and let too many other people watch my children. I will apologize for that because I've had a lack of education growing up. I didn't know anything about my Black culture. And with all the trauma I had growing up, my mindset is not actually in the mode that it should be in. Like my mindset is mostly in the trauma mode, and I'm trying to find a way to cope with it so I don't use that in my parenting style. So I'm grateful I'm getting the help that I need right now, but I would never hurt or abuse my children. Something that stood out to me with the bill, I caught a glimpse of it. I'm not sure if it was about rental assistance. I could be mistaken, but if it is, if I would have got the help that I needed with my children would never have been removed from me. I am low income, and I grew up in a household that was low income as well. So I'm trying to find ways to work around the system so I can become stable and get my life back on track. But with my story, it's not as simple as it is. Because I'm being accused of all these allegations, I am also being charged with 4 pending felony charges, which is making it difficult for me to get employment and permanent housing. So I am hoping that with this testimony that either this committee would actually consider making a child protection diversion program to help families so they don't have to go through what I'm going through. And I'm grateful that, like I said, the bill was passed, and I think that's it with my testimony. So thank you for allowing me to speak today.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us, Ms. Kramer. We really appreciate you being here and sharing your story. I think it kind of speaks to some of the intersections and, you know, the things that can happen when a family is experiencing housing instability, is experiencing problems just like with those simple payments, making rent, like you speaking to how powerful even, a kind of small amount of money could be to maintaining that stability, and then it not leading to maybe other circumstances or other choices that parents are forced to make when they can't make the rent. And so, as we know, right, like I don't want to turn your personal story that you just shared with us. We're very grateful for it, into something that's about money. But I think there was there's concern kind of about the high cost of the bill that I presented last week. And if we don't invest in families up front, then there are all of these other costs to our systems that we sometimes assume. So I just really appreciate it, Ms. Kramer. Thank you so much. And I don't know if Ms. Anderson, I don't see her on our call. So I think that with that, we're going to move on to the next part of our committee here. And if Ms. Anderson comes on the call, we'll hear from her at the end with the rest of the testifiers on the Koegel bill. So first, we're going to hear from Heidi Hamilton from the Department of Human Services. Welcome to the committee. Ms.
Thank you.
Hamilton. Thank you.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, my name is Heidi Hamilton. I'm a manager in the Housing and Support Services Division at the Department of Human Services. I was asked to give a brief overview of the Long-Term Homeless Supportive Services Fund. I did provide a handout for the committee. I'm not going to walk through that specifically, but it does have some additional information for you beyond what I'll talk about. So the Long-Term Homeless Supportive Services Fund was first implemented in 2006 with a goal of eliminating long-term homelessness in Minnesota. The program provides services to people who are long-term homeless or at risk of long-term homelessness in order to help them attain and retain permanent supportive housing. The Long-Term Homeless Supportive Services Fund is administered by the Department of Human Services. Counties, tribal nations, and multi-county or tribal collaboratives are eligible to apply for the funding. The Long-Term Homeless Supportive Services Fund currently funds 7 collaborative projects covering all geographic regions of the state. And one of these collaboratives is a tribal collaborative. The way the funding works for the Long-Term Homeless Supportive Services Fund is that the funding flows from DHS to the counties or tribes or tribal or county collaboratives. And these act primarily as a fiscal agent and pass the funding on to an intermediary. The intermediary is used because of the multi-county or multi-tribal collaborative. So it's easier to have a single intermediary who is selecting the providers, performing fiscal and monitoring duties, conducting project evaluation, and overseeing reporting requirements. Then providers deliver the services. And the services include case management, which is providing services to help people maintain their housing. There's outreach, which is assistance to find long-term homeless households. And then there's direct assistance, which is limited to 20% of the grant and is only available after other direct assistance sources have been explored and used if available. And then navigation, which is helping people to actually find housing. And then a small amount is available for administration. The current base funding for the program is $13.82 million. In calendar year 2020, the program served 3,585 people. 3/4 of those people are in Greater Minnesota and 1/4 in the Greater Twin Cities area. Black, Indigenous, and people of color make up about 66% of the people receiving services through the Long-Term Homeless Supportive Services Fund. And as I'm sure you are aware, these populations are overrepresented in the homeless population in Minnesota. So we think it's important that those groups are represented more in the population that's receiving the Long-Term Homeless Supportive Services Fund. That's what I have for an overview, but I'm happy to answer any questions that you have, and I have others who can help answer questions as well.
I'm not seeing any hands right now. I guess I would ask, so you described the case management services as services to maintain housing. Can you just tell us more about what that means, what that covers, please?
Sure. It really covers a wide variety of activities, whatever the person needs. It could be interacting with their landlord and having conversations about their budget, whatever kind of support they need that's going to help them keep their housing.
Do you know roughly, like, I guess I'm sort of interested in, like, if you track sort of, those categories that you talk about that we're funding, like how much of the overall amount ends up in each of those categories. Also interested in how long these services stay with people. And I know Rep. New Brindley's on deck here too.
Yeah, we do track that information. I'd be happy to get that to you. And I should be able to get some information while we're here about how long people are receiving those services.
And just quickly before we go to Representative New Brindley, the $13.82 million, that was that per year or per biennium in the base?
I believe that's per year, but
Okay.
I will verify that.
Okay, thank you. Representative New Brindley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate that. That was helpful. And it would be helpful to know if that's per year or per biennium. That would be really helpful. So if we can figure that out, that would be great. Can you go through, I mean, just doing some quick math, if we've got through 13.82 million in there now, and I believe you said 3,585, but it's in that ballpark, right? Of number of people served. So that would be approximately $3,854 per person. I understand that obviously it's not distributed that way, and some people may have more and some people may have less. But can you sort of detail with those dollars, where exactly would those dollars be going?
I think I'm going to have to ask for some assistance from our program person to talk about that. So just give me a second.
If there's another person on the call who'd like to answer that question, please go ahead and introduce yourself for the record and proceed with your answer to Representative New Brindley.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Representative Koegel.
Representative Brindley, are you curious about what kind of programs that goes to, or the specific organizations?
Madam Chair.
Yeah, Representative New Brindley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, I guess I'm trying to drill down. This has been sort of the perennial problem in this committee, right? Is that we know very general things, but we don't know specific things in this committee. And so I'm really trying to drill down to understand that $3,800 per person. Again, I understand that it's not, that it's not distributed that way, but I'm trying to really drill down and understand how that money is being spent to support those folks. We're talking about it going to this program or that program. How is that money getting to the individual, and what very specific supports then are the individuals receiving with those funds?
Thank you, Representative New Brindley. Representative Koegel, did you want to contribute something else? Or
Thank you, Madam Chair. I actually had the same, when I was looking at this language for House File 1382, I had to go back and look at the long-term homelessness support services statutes, and really just because I wanted to get a better understanding of how this money gets distributed, what kind of programs there are, how is it a competitive grant process? And so I just kind of looked at some of the contents of the proposals to see, what kind of programs or what kind of services would qualify. And so, partnerships with providers and services, developing strategies to enhance housing stability. And Heather Dukeshire is also on the line, and she runs Hearth Connections, and so their program is actually their organization is administering these programs. And so I think some of the proposals or what the money is going to is laid out in the content for proposals, but maybe she can help us with a little bit more real life, on the ground type stuff.
Thank you so much, Representative Koegel. And yeah, Ms. Dukeshire, I'm sorry, will you correct me if I mispronounce your name?
You were so close. It's Dukeshire.
Dukeshire, okay, great.
Yep.
And I saw you had your hand up. So if you have info to share in response to
Yeah,
Representative
definitely. My name is Heather Dukeshire, and I'm a senior program manager for Hearth Connection. And so we administer 4 of the collaborative projects that Heidi mentioned. And so she mentioned that there are intermediaries that do this work as we contract with a number of different service providers to cover entire regions. I work primarily with our Metro collaborative. So I can answer the most detailed questions about them, but more generally about those other 3 regions, which include the Northeast, Central, and Southern regional projects. So in terms of the sorts of services, so with these, that number isn't really a per person sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
So of course. So we work with a lot of different folks, and we also leverage other funding sources for each individual person. So some of the folks that we have coming into our program, they might be eligible for MA services like adult mental health targeted case management. Or the new housing stabilization services that are coming on board. So we are able to then connect these long-term homeless supportive services funds with all of those in order to provide services. And so the services that we provide are really person-centered, which is just a fancy buzzword to say that everybody has their own goals in terms of what they're looking toward. So there was a question about what does case management mean and all of that. And so we serve folks who have long histories of homelessness. And so sometimes when they come to us, we are looking at how do we get you into housing real quick, right? Which is a lot of people's goals. Some people want to take care of open warrants first or go to treatment. And we continue to support them through that as they work towards housing. And then continue to support them as they're in housing. And that can look very different for some folks, especially once they're housed. They don't really need those intensive services, right? So we're able to connect with them in kind of what we call supported independence, where we're like kind of a call if you're like, I don't know what to do in this situation. Can you help me out with this? For other folks, that might mean meeting every single day, right? To figure out how to get needs met. Because our systems are not necessarily easy to access at this point. And so being able to provide those ongoing services, because we serve folks from unaccompanied youth to families with children to adults without children, that can also look very different in terms of the kinds of services that are provided, right? Because children have different needs than elderly folks. And yes, so we do work with, at Hearth Connection, approximately 1,700 participants across 46 counties. We pair that with about $6.5 million in rental assistance. And then also, bringing in nearly $2 million from other service funding sources to support that work.
Thank you very much. Representative New Brinley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate that's helpful. So it sounds like, just to make sure that I'm understanding correctly, it sounds like this program very specifically works to provide case management essentially for those who are homeless or at risk of becoming homeless. It does not provide direct support. This program helps folks find other direct support. I just want to make sure I understand that correctly. It looks like I'm seeing nodding heads.
Yeah, so we do.
Yeah, Ms. Dusher. Yeah.
Yes, there is. I'm sorry, I might miss some of the formalities, especially with Zoom.
It's okay. We're doing good, I think. So.
All right, cool. So we do provide some direct assistance. So of course, our first priority is to access those areas of assistance that are available mainstream. But there are other areas where there aren't resources to pay for that. So sometimes that could be old debts. that are preventing someone from getting into housing. That might include being able to have a bus card or a phone in order to be able to get connected with these things. So sometimes that's household goods. When you first move into a unit, there's a lot of stuff that you need, even like cleaning supplies. And how do you make sure you get those things that are going to keep your unit clean and keep your landlord happy, right? So there's a lot of work that we do also with those landlord partnerships. And yeah, so working with the participants, but also working with those landlords and keeping those relationships good so that we can keep connecting people with units.
Thank you very much. And Representative New Brinley, I think that Ms. Hamilton from DHS had a response also. If that's okay, if we'll go to her and then back to you.
Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead, Ms. Hamilton.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Representative New Brinley. I just wanted to add that I completely agree with what Heather was saying. When we're talking about case management in the housing world, it is a little more direct hands-on than Medicaid case management, for example. And so case management that they're doing is really hands-on and working directly with the person to help them in whatever way they need to find and maintain their housing.
Madam Chair.
Thank you, Representative New Brinley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I appreciate the time to ask questions. I feel like there's so much for us to understand. With the direct supports that you provide, does that come out of this funding or does that come through other funding sources? Like I said, I feel like in this committee, we've got so much information and we don't really know where it's all going and what each specific thing is providing. So with the direct supports that you provide, is that coming through this funding source or is that accessing other programs for that?
Ms. Hamilton.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Representative New Brinley. They are able to access up to 20% of the grant funding for direct assistance, but the first priority would be to use other sources. This would only be if there aren't any other sources available to a person.
Thank you. Representative New Brinley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate that. That's what I was looking for. So I really appreciate that clarification. So 20% for direct assistance. Do we have any idea how many FTEs the program currently supports? And with this new funding, do we know how many FTEs will be added to the bill? Perhaps that's for Representative Koegel, I'm not sure.
Ms. Hamilton.
Madam Chair, Representative New Brinley, are you asking how many FTEs at the department or how many FTEs in the whole system of delivering the grant?
Representative New Brinley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I guess both. I'd be interested in both. And ultimately, the real question is how many more people will be served with the additional funding. It looks like, although it is an important question to know if that 13.82 million is annually or over the biennium, because this new appropriation will ultimately, after the biennium, will ultimately more than double the funding. And so I want to get a handle on, okay, so how many FTEs are we going to have at the end of this? And how many more people will we be able to serve with this funding? Have we figured that out? Have we looked into those numbers? Do we know where the money is going to go and how we'll use this specifically?
Representative New Brinley, if we could hold the specific part about what the expansion related to the bill will mean in terms of FTE and those reached, I think that part is best handled after we hear the bill, if that's okay with you.
Yes, absolutely. That's great. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Is there anything else, or did you hear I guess I don't know if I heard an answer to your question about the sort of current funding and the staffing that's covered by that, but maybe I'm incorrect. Representative Brinley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I guess maybe we can wait for that for once we actually move the bill. That 20% of direct assistance number was helpful. And yes, perhaps the testifiers can think about that between now and when we get to the bill is what this means for FTEs at the department or through those programs that we're supporting. How many folks can we add, and how many how many more staff can we add, and how many more people will be served? Thank you, Madam Chair.
Great. Thanks so much, Representative New Brindley. If there's nothing else, I'll go to Representative Petersburg, who also had a question.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So, as we're going about this, I find myself who is kind of involved in learning about this, not only confused, but with the number of agencies and collaborative groups that are all dealing with this issue, it's hard for me to keep track of where I would go and what I would do if I was to find myself in that same position. And I would think that it becomes even more complicated and concerning when you're trying to just figure out how you're going to survive and then have to try to figure out how to navigate through all these programs. And I don't see anybody talking about how do we consolidate, or maybe that's not even the right word. How do we provide for these services in a way that is easily accessible? As just a piece that I learned when I was involved with as a church administrator, and we had youth members who were involved with youth ministry, we found that it was not nearly as effective for the students and youth to come to them as it was for the youth directors to go to them. And so I'm curious as to how and whether or not we're actually doing actually effective outreach right where they're at homeless shelters, at underneath bridges, at all that sort of stuff, rather than always expecting them to come to an agency, and it might be this agency in this building and that agency in that building and so forth. When we know transportation is an issue and everything else, and yet we've got this complicated system that is out there, and every small aspect of that is separate is trying to do its own little thing in its own little area. It seems to me that we're really making the system worse by diffusing it rather than trying to figure out how we can actually implement it in an effective way that is consistent across the board and easily accessible. So I guess it's not really as much of a question as it is just a ponderment about, what are we doing? Do we have any way of actually getting the services to them rather than asking them to come to us? So it's just something to think about and to discuss. If people have more ideas to share with me, that's great. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Representative Petersburg. I think that really, kind of you're asking us to sort of orient ourselves to what it's like for the person accessing the services, and like how are we ensuring that experience of people getting what they need is happening well is really important. I've been thinking kind of like a lot about the conversations that we can have after our deadlines, and one of them was, I know that in Ramsey and Hennepin County, we have a coordinated entry program. And so it sort of is like, if you're a person who's accessing the services, there's one point of contact, there's one number, and then all of the kind of behind the scenes complication isn't necessarily like obvious to the person who's accessing the services. But that's not the case in every county, right? Like that's a unique thing, I believe, that we have in Hennepin, Ramsey, and possibly St. Louis counties. And so additionally, as we move through our work, right, like what does it mean for somebody in your county to try to be accessing these services, and what's that experience like as they sort of try to get what they need? So I'm really thankful for that comment, and I want us to kind of like think about how it is that we can lift that up and understand that better as we're moving through our time together after our deadline. And I know that I think Ms. Hamilton also had a response to Representative Petersburg's question / comment / urging us to ponder things, which I like.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Representative Pearson. I appreciate your comments. It is a complex system, but I want to highlight that we are just talking about one fund here, and the Long-Term Homeless Supportive Services Fund, which purpose is to help people find and keep permanent supportive housing. There are many aspects to the homeless delivery system, and some of the same providers are delivering other parts of that service, and they are they are braiding the funding behind the scenes. So it's not necessarily the person knowing where that funding's coming from. And also to address your comments about, are we making people go into offices to find their housing? Many providers are out in the community and doing direct outreach with people and finding them and connecting them to the services that they need. And then related to coordinated entry, that is a federal mandate. It's available nationwide. It's available all across Minnesota. We have 11 continuums of care in Minnesota that operate that and do it differently throughout the state, depending on the needs of each region. So those are some of the things I wanted to address. And then also, Madam Chair, back to an earlier question that you had asked, people do tend to be on the program for about 4 years. That's the average. And then related to the funding, sorry, I'm just following up on some of the previous questions. It is about 7 million per year. So the number that I provided was for the biennium.
Thank you very much, Ms. Hamilton. Representative Petersburg, did you have anything further or?
Yeah, I just wanted to comment to Ms. Hamilton that absolutely she's right. She's only dealing with that particular fund, but that's the very problem, is that everybody is just dealing with their own little pieces. And so we're doing what we need to do. The question is how do we do that together? And that's the part that I think we need to figure out how we can streamline with that, because with every aspect that has some sort of overhead or some sort of volunteer group or whatever, we sometimes duplicate processes, and sometimes that's important to do that. So I don't want to generalize and say we have to eliminate it always, but at the same time, we're dealing with a very fragile clientele, shall we say, that have limited resources. And so we need to figure out what is the most efficient way to deliver those services in a way that is best for them, not necessarily for our bureaucracy. So that's kind of the part that really becomes a challenge. I don't think we could solve it here, and it's not intended to single out any particular group, whether it's DHS or something else. It's just an overall a general comment that we need to figure out ways in which this system can work more effectively if possible. So that's all. I didn't mean to put anybody on the spot. I apologize if I did.
Thank you, Representative Petersburg. I think if you put anyone on the spot, it was in a good way, so I appreciate it. We do need to move on to the presentation, but I saw that Representative Koegel, did you have anything you needed to say right now? Or Rep. Ryer?
I was just going to highlight, thank you, Madam Chair, and members. I think I wanted to highlight that these organizations are the ones making those connections with all the different agencies or organizations, funds, so that the individual people don't have to be the ones going around doing it themselves. And so that's really where these organizations come in, and they try to maximize some of the mainstream resources like unemployment, social health services, leverage additional public and private resources, but then they're really the ones that are going out and finding the different resources for those individuals so that they're not the ones that are doing it, because that is cumbersome. It's burdensome, and so we're putting it on the backs of people like Heather to do. So thank you.
Great. Thank you, Representative Koegel. We're going to have more time for discussion a little bit later in committee, but I think it's going to be really helpful actually for us to hear more about the work of CHUM and at the Steve O'Neill Apartments, so that we can kind of get sort of deeper into an example of how this plays out in real life. So we're going to turn it over now to our presenter, Lee Stewart, the Executive Director of Churches United in Ministry, or CHUM, in Duluth. Welcome to the committee, Ms. Stewart.
Thank you very much.
Identify yourself and proceed with your testimony.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair and members of the committee, for inviting me to be with you here today, specifically to talk about the really critical role that permanent supportive housing plays in preventing and ending homelessness. My name is Lee Stewart, and I note the S-T-U-A-R-T, that often gets missed, and I am the Executive Director of CHUM in Duluth. I'd like to share a screen with you that I'm going to use just to go through, and I have I've shared this with Mr. Herring, and so you all will have copies of this. I think you got it overnight as well. So I'm going to use the Steve O'Neill Apartments as an example, named after, as you know, and Representative Hornstein knows, the great late Steve O'Neill, the champion of homeless services and advocacy and county commissioner in St. Louis County. So I'm going to give this as one example, but we are just one example of many, many organizations who could sit here and tell you about the services that we provide. So CHUM is the largest homeless service organization north of the Twin Cities, and the only one here that covers the whole range from street outreach to permanent supportive housing. We are a collective of 44 faith communities with a mission of people of faith working together to provide basic necessities, foster stable lives, and organize for a just and compassionate community. As a way of introduction, when we say basic necessities, we mean shelter, the food shelf, hospitality, and welcome. When we say foster stable lives, that's a lot of what we're talking about, of helping people who are in a hard spot in life return to more stability, get back into housing, leave shelter, stay in permanent housing, take whatever step they are on that path to get back. And when we say organize for a just and compassionate community, we mean address policies at the city, county, state, and federal level that disproportionately affect people that come to us. So one of our current priorities now is a project I know most of you have heard about. It's called Bring It Home Minnesota, which is a project of Beacon Interfaith to provide rental assistance to all families who are paying more than 30% of their income for housing. Our vision at CHUM is pretty simple, where every person has food, shelter, dignity, and hope, no racial disparities, and everybody lives in a world that's just and compassionate. We're an organization that's known as the one that says yes, and so our job is basically just to get it done. The Steve O'Neill Apartments were opened in 2014 after almost a 4-year pre-development stage and a 1-year construction stage. The building has 44 units of permanent supportive housing for families and children, and also houses CHUM's 6-unit emergency shelter. It's owned by Center City Housing, owned and operated by Center City Housing Corporation, and CHUM is the service provider there. One thing I would note is there hasn't been another thing built for families with children since 2014. So different issue, but related. So permanent supportive housing, when we say that, it's an evidence-based practice for overcoming families and overcoming homelessness and keeping families intact. So all of the families at Steve O'Neill Apartment have experienced homelessness, most of whom have experienced long-term or recurrent homelessness, and many who also chronic. They all live in extreme poverty. 82% of them have a disability of long duration, usually mental illness and addiction and substance use issues, and 60% have experienced domestic violence in their history. So our goal at Steve O'Neill Apartments is to break that cycle of family homelessness. We got into this project because some of the people we saw coming in family shelter in 2012, 2013, we knew them as kids when their mom and dad came into family shelter. We said, wow, we need to do something to break that cycle. So we set up these programs to break that cycle.
We just lost you, or I did. I don't know if other folks can still hear Ms. Stewart. Or
I lost her as well.
okay.
But that's a bummer. This was great.
I know. Ms. Stewart, if maybe you could try to turn off your camera, that sometimes works. Or Mr. Herring, you have any thoughts here what we should do?
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and try and call Ms. Stewart and see if we can get her reconnected. But I think maybe if we wanted to, I did see actually, if it's all right, if we want to take a pause, I do know Janisha is on now, who was our first testifier. Maybe we take a couple minute break here and I'll work on the technical issues.
Okay, that sounds good. Janisha Anderson, I believe. Let me check this. Janisha,
Yep.
Ms. Anderson, are you here on the call?
Yep.
Great. Welcome to the committee. If you could just introduce yourself for the record and then proceed with the testimony that you wanted to share. Thanks for making it back.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. Thank you. I'm Lee Stewart.
I'm sorry, Ms. Stewart. Hold on just a moment. We were we're just going to make sure if you can, and Mr. Herring can make sure that the technical issues are done, and we're going to hear briefly from a testifier,
Oh,
and then
okay.
we'll go right back to you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Sorry,
Thank you.
I was scrambling.
I definitely appreciate it. Go ahead with your testimony, Ms. Anderson. Sorry about that.
Yeah, my name is Janisha Anderson, and I work with my mom and Lexi with Freedom from the Streets. I'm in the 18 to 25-year-old division there, and I was testifying on child protection services. Are you gonna do it? And how they manipulate and lie and put words in people's mouths most of the time when they get involved with people. And yeah.
Thank you, Ms. Anderson. Does that complete your testimony?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much for being with the committee. We appreciate it. And let's go back to Ms. Stewart. Thanks, everybody on the committee. We're kind of, doing what we can do with our technical issues here. All right.
Madam Chair, thank you very much. And we've all lived through these types of technical glitches for a year now. So I'm going to start again and bring us back where I was before. I don't know when you exactly lost me, but I was talking about permanent supportive housing as evidence-based way to keep families together and to keep people housed. And the sort of the demography of our families, that everybody has been experienced homelessness, most for long-term homelessness, 85% with a disability of long duration, and 60% experience with domestic violence. So there's something happening here. So we really pride ourselves on using evidence-based practices like these: Circle of Security, Housing First, Harm Reduction, the high scope curriculum. We want to surround families with a safe and secure housing, a warm and welcoming community, and we support families through lots and lots of programs focused on health, wellness, lifelong learning, and community engagement. That's kind of our model, that it takes a lot of breakdown to become homeless, and it takes a lot of reknitting to overcome it. Am I still being heard? Okay.
Yep, we've got you.
Okay, great. So implementing these evidence-based practices requires us to invest a lot in staff training, but we think it's worth it because those practices have been proven to be effective. And if we don't train people to do them properly, they don't work. And so this is a large investment that we make. A lot of homeless services use the language of overcoming barriers, but we really prefer to frame it as building resiliency at Steve O'Neill Apartments. And that's just not a trick of the tongue. I mean, I look back at my own life, and if everyone had focused on my problems, my challenges, the worst days of my life, the worst days of experiences, I would have a substantially reduced horizon for myself. Whereas if they're talking about strengths and resilience and overcoming, that's a better thing. So this slide shows some of the steps we take to build resilience. And again, we do it from birth through adulthood. We have early childhood programming where we connect specifically with, we have a 4-star parent aware program license for the children that live at Steve O'Neill Apartments. That's for kids 6 weeks to 4. We work closely with the school district and early childhood special ed and early childhood family ed to make sure that the kids are on track for their developmental benchmarks and that they're hitting those cognitively, physically, emotionally. We have youth programs that help promote success in schools and build positive relationships. Throughout all our programs, there's an emphasis on social emotional learning. We pay special attention to families who are working with child protective services, which I'll talk about in a minute. But we go so far as to reserve space in our children's programming when kids are in out-of-home placement, so they don't lose connection with their friends and their progress in those programs. So although children are the focus, we know that it's a 2-generational approach. Grow Up Group here is a parenting group for young moms. All families have a skilled coach. that can guide them through a network of where goals that they want to accomplish. We do use the Minnesota self-sufficiency matrix to sort of like, how do we set that? And that sets things like, how's your transportation? How's your mental health? How's your education? How's your kids' education? What about housing stability? What about food security? So multi dimensions of what it takes to have a stable life. And then we also have family enrichment activities, which I will talk to in a minute. This year is partly inspired by COVID. We've been able to add both telecourt and telehealth services at Steve O'Neill Apartments. So that's been really helpful. Our programs are focused on reducing trauma, on removing barriers to healthcare, and up to and including treatment for substance use and mental health conditions. And we want to enrich lives. You know, pre and post COVID, we have monthly community birthday parties, family literacy nights, and usually a couple of community dinners. We have a couple of annual field trips. We have community gardening, and that covers everything from planning and planting to tending to harvesting to eating it and preserving it. So again, this is just our focus, that we know that we need to provide services at the individual level, the family level, and the community level to reknit those relationships that provide, really make for a healthy family. And speaking of the complexity of it all, a large part of our work is coordinating services across all of these agencies. There are 10 or 12 typically agencies or departments that families are connected to or enmeshed in. And as previous speakers are correct, it takes a lot to get through that. And that's what we consider part of our job. Now, speaking to child protection services, one of our focuses is family reunification and reintegration. We were in the second national cohort of a training called Keeping Families Together that's sponsored by the Corporation for Supportive Housing. This program is designed to make sure that the child protection workers are aware of how important stable housing is for families, and to create a one team on the field when it comes to child safety. I was really touched by Ms. Kramer's testimony, because it was like, oh, that's just that's exactly what we tried to avoid and have been working on. We're really proud of our results. 35% of the families have lived at Steve, or 35% of the people who've lived at Steve O'Neill have been there for more than 4 years. When you put that on a story of long-term homelessness before, that's remarkable. 43% have been there between 2 and 4 years. One of the things I remember in year one, a young mom talked to me, and she said, she hit the 8-month mark. She said, Lee, this is the longest I've lived anywhere since I've been 18. And I said, and can you tell me how old you are now? Sorry. She said 28. So think about a trajectory that in 10 years, the longest you've lived any place is 8 months. And the coolest result that I have is that there are, last count 35, but I know we just had another baby, 36, and it could be a few more than that. But those kids have been born at Steve O'Neill and are still living there. So they were never homeless. So, breaking the cycle of family homelessness means providing a place where babies can be born, not homeless, never experience it. And in terms of keeping families together, this is a slide that shows how we've been working at that. Everybody at Steve O'Neill is at risk for child welfare involvement for exactly the reasons that other speakers were talking about: instability, drug use, mental health, bad history, not having experiences parenting, having disabilities that impair their thinking in a way that so they can't perhaps take care of the kids. In 2017, we had 29 children in out-of-home placement, and a third of our families were connected there. In 2020, we had 8 open cases and 4 children in out-of-home placement. And that's a testimony to the way we work with families and with the Child Protective Services in St. Louis County. It's not always easy, but it's definitely on the front burner of us. And we know that not all the time is it in the best interest of the child for families to be reunited. That's sad. But when it is, we do everything possible for the family, the child, and to make whichever way it goes as positive an experience as we can. But I'm super proud of this result. In terms of sustainability, it costs about $600,000 a year for CHUM to do this. which is about $1,150 a month. I was fast doing my pencils on your other calculation. So there's average family size is 3, that's about $3,000, $300 to $400 a month per person, which is about $3,600 per family, per year. So it's on par of it. And we are working to get reimbursement from the Housing Stabilization Services. And even though it sounds like a lot of money, it's reasonable for me if we can break the cycle of homelessness. This little guy is one of the ones he was 1 week old when he moved into Steve O'Neill, and now he's in kindergarten. So done well. So in close, like the allocation you're considering today is really critical to support permanent supportive housing throughout the state. It makes possible the supportive piece of that. One of the challenges from my seat is that often there's a disconnect between the physical parts of housing, the bricks and sticks and the operations. There's funding for that. Services are required, but there's no funding to cover those services. And so it's left for groups like CHUM to figure out how do we provide those services. And this allocation will help bridge the gap, but not universally. So I would really like you to consider increasing the allocation if possible. I saw the handout from Hearth Connection, and we've been trying to increase the funding for Northeast Minnesota for many years so that CHUM could even be part of this program and be part of the beneficiary of this bill. We're not yet. So increasing the allocation would make it possible for to support these kind of services. So look what you can do. Please do what you can do. We thank you for your support. It's really critical, and we're in it together as partners. And I'm really open for questions. And to do that, I'll put myself back because it's hard to talk to a thing. How about that?
All right. Thank you so much, Ms. Stewart. That was very helpful for me to kind of understand the range of services that you provide to folks who are in your housing, and really just appreciate all of your work and, focusing on the resilience of people and not just on all of the bad things that have happened. That's really important. So we have about 35 minutes left in the committee. I see Representative New Brindley has a question, but we want to move pretty quickly to the bill, and then I think we'll have a little bit more time for discussion after we get the bill before us. So Representative New Brindley.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you so much, Ms. Stewart. This was amazing and so interesting and helpful. And I actually think, you talked about the sustainability, $600,000 a year, about $1,150 per month per family. That actually does not seem like a lot of money. That actually seems like you are doing something incredibly meaningful and efficient. And I'm wondering if you have an explanation for that. How I would actually ask how you do this for what you do it for. I think that's because that includes the housing and all of these supports. And I understand that you are bringing in other supports for the families, that I'm sure other resources, but that actually seems quite efficient to me. And I'm wondering if you can just talk about that for a moment.
For Representative New Brindley, that is the services budget only. Families also have a project-based housing voucher with HRA, so they pay 30% of their income, and the rest is balanced by the voucher from HRA. That covers a lot of the operations of the building, and then the owner of the building also gets some funding through the continuum of care, the NOFA process, for having a 24-hour desk. So, and they provide the management, they provide the security, the cleaning of the common areas. And so this is the services budget only, but that's parallel to the services that we're talking about with Hearth Connection, because they roughly cover the same kind of things. And so how we do it is I have to raise a whole lot of money from foundations and from the state. Well, primarily for this is foundations and individual donors, because we haven't been able to break the need is so much greater than you all can. And I see Heather nodding. We have worked at this for years to try to increase the funding, because it really hasn't increased in the Northeast, so that new groups coming on can be part of the program. And so we will continue to do it. It would make my life easier if we could be part of the Hearth Connection network. Again, we've been talking, we're very strong allies. We understand that we do this, and we have, maybe 30 or 80 maybe 40 of our units qualify for exactly what Hearth Connection does. So for me, it's always a mix of making sure we've got public-private money because ending homelessness is both public and philanthropic. So that may be a long answer, but I hope you understand it. Thank you for asking.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Ms. Stewart, great. And I saw Representative Hornstein had a question or a comment they wanted to add quickly.
Yes, I quickly, Madam Chair, thank you. And thank you, Ms. Stewart. You know, I'm always so inspired and energized whenever you come to the legislature. And I know that our friend Steve would be so proud of the work that you've done and honoring his legacy. But one of the questions that I think prompted myself and Chair Gomez, there were a number that we talked about together in terms of just clarifying terms. And so one I had was that sort of, I've heard this, and I don't know if it's interchangeable or there's some nuance in the definition, but you know, people talk about wraparound services and then also supportive housing. And I'm wondering whether you know, is this one in the same? Is there a nuance? Is it something different? You know, that's, I mean, there are many questions, but that was maybe the one I wanted to focus on with you.
Thank you, Representative Hornstein. Ms. Stewart, or there might, there might be other folks on the call who also have an answer to that. But
thank you, Madam Chair and Representative Hornstein. For me, both of those things try to describe the same. Wraparound services is a common sense sort of thing where we provide everything that a particular family needs so that they can get where they need to go. Supportive housing has a spectrum of services available, some from very, very light to some very, very heavy. We're on the heavy end of that. So I would not conflate supportive housing and wraparound services. I would say wraparound services are permanent supportive housing with maximal services.
Okay, that's very helpful. And then in the interest of time, Madam Chair, I think I'll save my question for the bill because I am very interested in the funding question here because, and maybe this is something that Representative New Brindley and I can work on because I think that, you know, I'd like to see more Steve O'Neill apartments all over the state. And I've been told, well, that's a bonding issue, but I think it's much, much more than that. So I'd like to delve into that perhaps in the conversation on the next bill.
great. Thank you so much, Representative Hornstein. And thanks again, Ms. Stewart, for your presentation today. It was very, very helpful, I think, for all the members. And, you know, not to invite ourselves to your place, but once we're all vaccinated and we can take a field trip, I think we should all come take a field trip and get to see the Steve O'Neill apartments in person.
I want to be the first to sign up, Madam Chair. For that.
All right, excellent. Get on the road together at some point, you guys. Thank you so much. So finally on the agenda, we have House File 1382. This bill was referred to division by the full Human Services Committee. Representative Koegel, welcome to your committee. Would you like to move your bill?
Thank you, Madam Chair and committee members. I will move House File 1382 to go back to Human Services.
We have House File 1382 before us. Representative Koegel, please present your bill to the committee.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members, for hearing House File 1382 to provide increased funding for long-term homeless supportive services. We have talked a lot over the past year about how the pandemic has shined a bright spotlight on how lack of investments in supportive services has exacerbated the problem faced by those challenged by housing instability, mental illness, chemical dependency, and chronic health issues. Long-term homeless supportive services fund was created to encourage collaboration among public and private service providers to work with individuals with a long history of homelessness and barriers to housing and break them down. So in 2005, the legislature invested $10 million in long-term homelessness supportive services fund, which is a mouthful. Despite what we all know, there are growing needs. So House File 1382 proposes an increase of $7 million per year. But we introduced that amount to have honest discussion with this committee about how much the cost of living has increased since this fund. So 14 million per biennium is what this fund would need to simply keep up with the increase of costs for maintaining the 2005 service levels. Needs have increased and needs are more complex. And so with that, this is really about starting that discussion about how much we want to invest in these types of supportive services. So, once we get our committee targets and goals, I think it's important to keep this discussion open. And so with that, I would like to introduce Heather Dukeshire, who is the Metro Regional Director for Hearth Connection.
Ms. Dukeshire, welcome to the committee. Please introduce yourself for the record, and if you could just spell your last name and proceed with your testimony.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair and committee members. So my name is Heather Dukeshire. That is spelled D as in dog, UCHSCHERER. And I am a senior program manager at Hearth Connection. So my title has changed, but I'm still the same. So Hearth Connection is celebrating over 22 years of working in housing and supportive services. So our history is rooted in a pilot program that looked at examining the most effective ways to work across sectors to assist individuals with a long history of homelessness who also face incredible barriers to housing, whether that be mental illness, chemical dependency, etc. And so out of that pilot program that demonstrated the best way to help people with multiple barriers is to break down those complexities in an integrated way. So connecting healthcare, social services, affordable housing supports, really those wraparound services that we were just talking about, as well as looking at innovative financing, centralized oversight, and emphasizing collaboration among partners. So with these programs, we work across multiple counties, across many different organizations. And so really bringing everybody together to get us all on the same page for ending long-term homelessness. So doing this sort of work has helped us to reach across those sorts of divides, whether that is like what county somebody is in, to truly help people to find stability while also reducing the costs associated with those uncoordinated responses to homelessness. So it was that initial data from the pilot program that interested the legislature in 2005 to create and fund the Long-Term Homeless Supportive Services Fund. And so we have at Hearth Connection leveraged those funds for the past 16 years to be the mortar that holds many of the programs funded with traditional funding streams together. So it's proven to be an important stream of funding for us to bridge that work of federal, state, county, local, community agencies, and other stakeholders. So I'd just like to give a brief overview of the various aspects of our work. So as previously mentioned, we administer 4 regional projects across the state. We serve annually 1,723 participants across 46 counties. The services that we provide, we also pair with $6.5 million in rental assistance, both from HUD and from Minnesota Housing. So with those services, again, we also see $169 per month average increase in participant income. As people are housed, they're able to increase their earned income as well as their non-earned income. Within that, we also have a couple of smaller projects as we continue to try to be innovative in the ways in which we do this work. So one of those projects is Step Down, which we did with Minnesota Housing and DHS to move participants from really high support site-based permanent supportive housing into housing in the community with light touch services. Some folks are in those site-based housing places because they literally can't afford to move out into the community. So for folks who want to move out into the community, how do we support them in doing that and opening up those spots like in units similar to Steve O'Neill, where folks who need that really, really intense service to be able to receive that. And so our evaluation has shown a $7,443 annual savings per household compared to those sites. And we've also started our coordinated entry navigation services. I know Representative Gomez mentioned coordinated entry. But this is something that exists, like Heidi said, across the state. And so as folks are awaiting referrals to housing, we're able to connect people to mainstream resources and meet them where they're at, whether that is signing at an intersection, camping in the woods, whatever, and get them connected to those resources and supporting self-resolution where possible. So currently, Hearth Connection, we receive $5.5 million annually from the Long-Term Homeless Supportive Services Fund across those 4 regional projects. So we were able to distribute nearly $5 million, which unlocked an additional $1.64 million from other funding sources, including federal HUD dollars, Medicaid funds like adult mental health targeted case management, and adult rehab mental health services, or ARMS. So in 2021, that number is going to increase, especially as we start leveraging the Medicaid billable housing stabilization services, as well as other dollars like philanthropic dollars, and increasing those other leverage sources that I've already mentioned. So the Long-Term Homeless Supportive Service Fund, it really does allow us to flexibly meet the needs of complex situations. Not everybody is eligible for those mainstream resources, and not all of the services that we provide are able to be billed to those mainstream resources. So by having these flexible dollars, we're able to meet those situations in ways that produce real outcomes. So that increase would allow us to work with regions to expand their capacities and also to do work to expand into more regions throughout the state. So we know that there's a lot of folks who are experiencing long-term homelessness across the state. And so looking at how do we increase that reach as we work to fully end long-term homelessness across the state. So I do thank you for your time and attention, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. I really appreciate the conversation that's already taking place. And yes, I'm here for your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Dukeshire, for your testimony. We also have 2 testifiers signed up. We are getting toward the end of our committee. I'm going to ask our community testifiers to keep their comments to 2 minutes or less so that we can get to the amendment and adopt the bill. First is Sue Phillips. Welcome to the committee.
Thank you, Madam Chair and committee members. Sue Watlow Phillips. I'm the Executive Director of MICA and President of the National Coalition for the Homeless. I've also submitted some written comments. I want to start out by saying that MICA is very supportive of the long-term homelessness supportive services program and supportive housing. We do have concerns about doubling the dollars here. And I think some of the questions that came up earlier in the conversation is why. I think it's important that this committee takes a look at the entire continuum to housing and how we are funding current programs before we look at doubling one part of the continuum to housing. Right now in the base budget, we have less than $1 million per year available for emergency services, for shelter, and for outreach. And so what happens is that we are not doing the outreach and the shelter to folks, and we're not funding folks to get into transitional programs. So we're growing this large group of folks that are now meeting the definition of long-term homelessness because they can't get into anything else except for supportive housing, which has been the major focus of our housing dollars since 2003 when this bill was first introduced. So I think what I'm really concerned about as we're moving forward, and I worked with Commissioner Ho, who was the executive director of Hearth when this first started, in the development of the long-term homeless program, especially the scattered site modeled after some of our transitional types of programs. I'm really concerned that as we're moving forward is that we're not looking at the entire picture and how we need to prevent people from becoming homeless. How do we reach out to folks that are experiencing homelessness, get folks into shelter if they need that, and get them into housing as quickly as possible, whether that's transitional or supportive or right into permanent housing. So just a few comments. I think some of the things that we're concerned about is that we have a lot of dollars going into supportive housing, and you've heard some of the differing dollars that are going into it. So somewhere between probably with the long-term homeless service dollars, the other dollars that we're accessing, and the subsidy dollars, somewhere between $15,000 to $40,000 per year that we're paying per household to be in the program. So it's a very expensive program, but a very good program. Steve O'Neill was a good friend of mine. I love CHUM. One of our staff people is doing volunteer work at CHUM right now. So it's not that we have any concerns about the supportive housing programs. We're concerned that the continuum of care or continuum to housing is not preventing people from becoming homeless, and because we are not uploading the dollars into outreach and shelter and transitional programs, people are becoming long-term homeless, and their only option is supportive housing, which is a very expensive model.
Ms. Phillips, thank you so much for your comments. We did send your letter as part of the committee packet to everybody, and we appreciate you being in front of the committee. Thank you. I have Karen Peterson on as having signed up for the community testimony portion, but I don't see them on the call. So I think we're going to move on. Members, there is an amendment labeled the House File 1382 A1. Who's offering this amendment?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'd like to move the amendment.
Excellent.
Madam Chair, I've just elevated you. Madam Chair, thank you.
I'll take it. Representative New Brindley moves the amendment labeled A1. Does everybody has a copy of this amendment? Representative New Brindley, please proceed and explain your amendment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I really appreciate all of the conversation and testimony on this. And I know we don't have a lot of time, so I won't belabor it. But I also appreciate Ms. Phillips' comments. There is clear benefit to this program, but I share the concern about doubling that program. And also, as with previous bills, we've heard doubling it in perpetuity, that we're adding that to the base. And while this amendment doesn't address that, I continue to have concerns about that. This amendment just gets at the issue that sort of we've had throughout session in this committee, that it feels like there's a real lack of understanding about really having our arms around all of it. So this amendment simply requires a study to be, or a report to be done and given to the chair and the lead of the Committee of Jurisdiction in the future, so that hopefully we can gather some more information and we can have a better understanding of where our successes are, where our dollars are being used really successfully. So I offer this as a friendly amendment and certainly would ask for support on it. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Representative New Brindley. Is there any further discussion? Representative Koegel, did you want to speak to the amendment?
Yeah, Madam Chair, thank you. And Representative New Brindley, I would see this as a friendly amendment. I think it's a good idea to get kind of some reporting back on the information, or on how the money is used. I think transparency is always good. So I would suggest members support the amendment.
Great. I think this is a good amendment too, so I hope that our members will support it. Hearing no further discussion, if we could unmute for a moment to do a voice vote. All those in favor of the A1 amendment signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion prevails and the amendment is adopted. So we now have House File 1382 as amended in front of us. We have about 10 minutes left if there's any more discussion. I also wanted to just, I didn't mean to cut off discussion about the Steve O'Neill presentation. So if there's questions or comments or conversation with Ms. Stewart that should happen, now is a good time for that also. Representative Hornstein.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And just quickly, because I know it's probably a much more involved discussion, but Ms. Stewart has some ideas about, what moving forward from here, what the state role is in funding this model, not only the CHUM model in Duluth, but around the state. I think it's really a great model, and I think it should be replicated. And I know in various places and various forms it is, but what's your advice about how we are able to replicate this in other places, and maybe what your needs are moving forward in terms of state involvement?
Ms. Stewart, how can we all get Steve O'Neill apartments in our districts, please?
Chair Gomez and Representative Hornston, those are wonderful, wonderful questions. I would say a couple things. One is to look at the geographic way in which tax credit projects are allocated, lined up with ending homelessness. It obviously is an important financing mechanism, but it doesn't look to me like it's as strategically lined up with where homelessness exists, and how to. And I've written a little paper about it. I could share that with you, where I just did an analysis of the last 5 or 6 years of allocations versus the point in time counts of homelessness. And it just looks like we ought to just ask that question. Is there a way we could target more resources locally? So in Duluth, for example, we know in 2024, we're going to be able to build 400 units. That gives us 3 years to run up and get it all ready to go. Just an idea about that. I don't think I haven't heard of another organization that in the permanent supportive housing world that relies so totally on philanthropic funding as CHUM does for the Steve O'Neill apartments. In that 600,000, there's about $50,000 of public funding in it, and the rest is from, and as I said before, not from this wonderful bill. When I first came, I said, wow, this is a great source. And then I said, oh, no, it can't, because it's closed. It's so increasing so that when you do the study and say, here are the ones that are benefiting, here are other programs that have evolved during the portion this bill has been acted, but haven't been put into the same program because of resource limitations. So those two things of really targeting where the bricks and sticks come, figuring out ways to expand services, but probably most important, making sure that we put together, if the bricks and sticks require services, there's got to be parallel funding with that so that it goes as a piece. And I don't know how to do that, Chair and committee, but I would certainly ask the question about that, because it's very difficult. I mean, right now I'm being asked to sign up as a service provider for another project with one roof, but there's no money to pay for those services. And maybe I could get some of it from Housing Stabilization Services, but I bet I'm going to have to get a half of it from the CHUM General Philanthropy. Well, that's a steep, I mean, that's our commitment. We'll do it, but it makes it harder. I hope that helps.
That does. Thank you so much, Ms. Stewart. I think it's really useful to hear from service providers about the challenges that you face in terms of like aligning all the different pieces that it takes to have a successful program. And I think that that's sort of like something that as a committee it's super critical for us to hear. And I want us to dig deeper with you on that and to figure out like how it is that we can, because that's sort of that's a thing that as policymakers, we can maybe help to align things a little bit better. That's kind of the thing that we're all struggling with here. So I really appreciate that. And also anytime anybody wants to talk about taxes, tax credits as related to housing and homelessness, I'm so here for it. So thank you for that. Please send me your paper.
And thank you, Madam Chair. And just to say that one of the great advantages of working with Hearth Connections as an ally is using their systematic approach. We learned an awful lot about how to do it through Hearth Connection, and their understanding, connect all of those different systems around. And then we look at what are our systems, who are our people, and then we do that because I'm like the ultimate connector. But that's so much part of it is finding someone who says, let's just do it and do it all we can. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Are there any further member comments or questions at this time? All right. Seeing none, Representative Koegel, did you have any closing comments about your bill?
Thank you, Madam Chair and members. I think this is just a really important conversation to be having when we're looking at, the homelessness in our communities. I was just looking through, what Anoka County is doing for homeless outreach, and when some of those questions came up, and was pleased to see that they're using an Old Buffalo Wild Wings right across the street from me that they're serving meals out of and connecting people with services. And so I think, these kinds of programs are very worthy. And the goal is to make it so that we don't have to fund this anymore, because there is no more homelessness. And so that's pie in the sky, but I really hope someday we can get there. And so with that, I will renew my motion that 1382 be referred to Human Services.
Representative Koegel renews her motion that House File 1382 as amended be returned to the full committee. The clerk will take the roll. The chair votes aye.
Keeler.
Keeler votes aye.
Keeler, aye. New Brindley.
No.
New Brindley, nay. Davids.
No.
Davids, nay. Heinrich.
No.
Heinrich, nay. Hollins.
Aye.
Hollins, aye. Hornstein.
Aye.
Hornstein, aye. Howard.
Aye.
Howard, aye. Koegel.
Aye.
Koegel, aye. Petersburg.
No.
Petersburg, nay. Ryer.
Aye.
Ryer, aye. There are 7 ayes and 4 nays.
There being 7 ayes and 4 nays, the motion passes, and House File 1382 as amended is on its way back to our full committee. Just before we adjourn, we were joined by our other community testifier that we didn't get to quickly, so we're going to give her just about 2 minutes. Ms. Peterson, if you could introduce yourself to the committee and proceed with your testimony. I'm sorry that I know that we already just adopted the bill you wanted to speak about, but we'd still like to hear your opinion on it.
Well, I appreciate that. This is Karen Peterson. I live at 215 Broadway Street in Northeast Minneapolis. I'm the president of the Sheridan Neighborhood Organization, sorry. And I'm sorry I didn't get to hear what everybody had to say, but I just wanted to speak in support of the bill, because we can't just keep throwing money at everything, but we do need to throw some money at this problem. That we need to build safe, stable, supportive housing, but we also need services that are directed specifically. That the youth homeless experience, they have needs that are distinctly different from what the adults need. So we need to differentiate and really address the needs of a horrific amount of children that are out there that need our help. I guess that's all I have to say. So thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you for the work you're doing.
Thank you so much, Ms. Peterson. So our next meeting is Wednesday, March 17th. At the risk of ending every one of our committees with Love Fest, I just want to express my thanks to the committee for the good discussion today. I think it helped me. I hope it helped Chair Hornstein kind of get a bigger picture of what supportive services are. And I think there's more discussion to be had here, and so we're going to continue to dig in with each other and kind of have these discussions and figure out how we can best serve folks experiencing homelessness in Minnesota. So with that, we are adjourned. Thanks so much, everyone.